Hey everybody, Sean here, and today, 5 Minute Mornings, I just wanted to talk about how we can get excited about goals that we want to accomplish. Because I think it's really important to not just set goals, and if we set goals in a very specific way, we can actually help increase the positive emotion that we have behind the goal. Now, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. You ready? Human beings, based on psychological research, are motivated primarily by two things. It's pain and it's pleasure. And I say it a lot because it's very true, but it may come off as this weird thing. So I wanted to just unpack that for a second before we go on. What I mean by pain and pleasure is literally, do we perceive the outcome of what we're about to do as painful, which would be like putting your hand on a hot stove, let's say. There's going to be some physical pain there. But pain can also be the time something takes. Like if something takes a long time, we can perceive that as pain also. In fact, you could argue that Lyft and Uber are companies that their sole purpose, almost, from the client side, is to mitigate the pain of time and inconvenience. Because you can call up an Uber, let's say, in 2 or 3 minutes, depending on where you are, and you can be off going somewhere else and get there very quickly as compared to public transportation or taking a bicycle. So, when I say pain, that's what I mean. Anything that we perceive as discomfort, really. It doesn't even have to be that painful, but could be just slightly uncomfortable. Like how long something takes is a great example of that. And then when I say pleasure, it's anything that we perceive that we would like. So perhaps going to see a movie, especially one that we think is going to be good. That's a high expectation of some pleasure that's going to happen. We're very motivated to do that. So primarily, and this is speaking in very basic terms, okay? We approach pleasure and we recoil from pain. Now, what you can do is you can use both of these to your advantage. And that's probably going to be a talk for a different time, so we'll put a pin in that. So specifically, what we want to do, though, is we want to get ourselves very excited about accomplishing our goal. Because if we don't, we risk making it too painful. And that's what I think happens with people that fall off of goals. At some point, it gets too painful. And we've lost sight, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but we've lost sight of exactly what we want. And we've gotten too focused on the discomfort in the short term, the pain in the short term that we have to endure in order to get to our goal. Now, here's something funny. We don't always have to endure pain to achieve a goal. That's not necessarily always true. I say that for a very good reason. Because if your goal is too difficult, then maybe how you've structured your goal is simply that. Maybe it's just simply too difficult. And what if we made it a little bit easier to accomplish? What would that be like? Would you have more motivation to actually try to accomplish it? It's a question to check out, because sometimes we set our goals too high. Now, what we want to do is not set them too high or too low. We want to kind of get them in this sweet spot where we're nervous a little bit about the goal itself, and we really want to accomplish it, and we believe that we have what it takes to accomplish it. We think it might be a little difficult, but if we do enough practice, if we spend enough time, we'll be able to accomplish the goal, and that's kind of the sweet spot. That's a place that's going to also help keep you motivated. So there's a really simple 3-step process, all that aside, that you can follow that will reliably help you increase your motivation. And in fact, only one of these 3 steps sometimes is necessary. And that's why the first one, the very first step, is to get a very clear picture or movie or some kind of thought of some kind of what exactly it's going to be like when you accomplish your goal. What are you going to get? What does it look like? What do you want? Okay? What do you want? Really? That's the question out of everything I just said. So what do you want? How clear can we make that also? And the way we make it clear is by adding senses to it. Here's what I mean. So if you're someone who imagines their future as a picture, and you can kind of see the picture in your mind's eye, let's say, then what you'll want to do is make that picture as clear as possible by increasing the color. That can help the clarity. Some people might need to turn the color down a little bit to make it a little less vibrant to make it more clear. So whichever you are, you can turn up or down. You can also add items to the picture to make it more meaningful for you. I'll give you a good example. Let's say your goal is to play professional baseball. Okay? I don't think it's a bad goal, depending on how old you are, how much experience you have, etc., right? There's caveats to that. I don't think it's a bad goal at all, though. And especially if you're young right now, if you're, 14, 12-ish, what you could do is start to imagine yourself playing baseball in a photo and start filling in the details. Are there people in the crowd behind you, or can you see the crowd? What position are you playing? What's the uniform you have on? Is it lighter? Is it darker? Is there a logo on the uniform? Is it your favorite team? Do you imagine yourself playing for your favorite team? It's not uncommon that you find in sports that as the athletes' careers go on, they end up playing for the team sometimes that they always wanted to play for. So once someone's in that position, they can kind of adjust for that. Let's say once you're a professional athlete, it's a lot easier to play for a specific team than it is before being a professional athlete, right? That makes sense. So that's the first piece. Make it really vivid. And you can make a movie really vivid. You can make sounds really vivid. And as you add more senses to that photo, by the way, if you add sound to the photo, it's going to make it a lot more clear. And just by doing that, that can really increase how someone feels about their goal. It can increase their motivation also. It can increase the happiness, the excitement they have about it. The second piece is you need to know specifically your reasons why you want to accomplish this goal. And that's the question. Why do you want this? Another good question in there is, what will you get from this? When you do accomplish your goal, what will you get? Well, if I have a goal around becoming more fit, let's say losing weight, statistically I'll be a little bit healthier. I might even be happier. I might even have more energy. Right? So those are some things I'm going to get. And what about extending my life a little bit longer? I think I just said that, but how does that affect not just me? What about the people around me? How does that affect my family, my friends, my loved ones? And how does that also affect the greater community around them? Right? So you're starting to see a theme here that if you set goals that are good for you, good for the people around you, and good for the greater community, those tend to be the goals that we will put more effort into accomplishing. And then the third piece is we need an action list. We need an action items list, if you will. And there's really easy ways to make that. You can just take a piece of paper, old school. Write out where you are at the very top. Write out where you want to be at the very bottom. And then start filling in what you think the actions are that will get you from where you are to where you want to be. By the way, if this is a difficult piece, which it can be for some, especially if you have a goal that forces you to do some things that you don't quite know about yet, a great way to generate this action item list is to simply send an email or do a cold call to someone who you admire, who is actually doing the thing that you want to be doing, and ask them how they got there. Now, the other way to do this is you can purchase products from people, these blueprints that have done the thing that you want to do, that will give you the action item list right there. So those three things, make sure that what you want is very clear, and adding senses to that and adding pieces within that to make it more meaningful to you, like the team outfit. I think that's a good example of what I mean by more specific. And then secondly, asking yourself why. Why do you want to do this? What are your reasons? And the more reasons you have on average, the better this is going to be. And then the third piece is going to be generating an action item list. And again, you don't even have to know what the action item list is now. All you have to do is reach out to someone or purchase a product or find free online information on YouTube, for example, of how to do the thing that you want to do so you can make the action item list. And then you're starting to schedule those action items. So that would be the full process. of how to get from just a goal to something you actually take action on and are excited about. So if you found this helpful, if you found it interesting, if you found it confusing, whichever, go ahead and comment below. I want to start a dialogue with you because I think this stuff is really interesting. And I know this has probably gone longer than 5 minutes, so thank you for your attention if you made it all the way. Again, 5 Minute Mornings. My website, seanmarconet.com, SeanMarconett.com. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.